Thinking about starting a business with a family member? Great idea until it isn't. Here is entrepreneur Troy Hazard with some tips on how to make it all work out. Troy Hazard, my man, good to see you.
You too, mate.
How are you?
Good, good.
Yeah, it's always good to have you. Love having you here. This man is a serial, successful entrepreneur. You're up to what, 12 businesses in the last 25 years?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Pretty great.
Crazy.
Author of this best-selling book, Future-Proofing Your Business.
Yep.
All-around good guy with a cool accent. A million reasons to like you.
There you go.
And
that's why I'm here.
This topic is so fun because now we're going to talk about not just starting a business, but starting a business with a family member. Yeah. So as you and I spoke about this, it's like, you know, people they're together for the holidays.
Yep.
And they're like, you know what, Uncle Joe, let's do that widget business.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just do it. We'll start on Monday. Come on, let's go. I'll put in 10 grand, you put in 10 grand, everything will be fantastic.
We don't need any paperwork,
No.
We're totally fine.
We've been family for so long, we know how each other thinks. It's all easy.
What could possibly go wrong? Yeah.
Everything.
You're here to tell us a lot could go wrong. And you speak from experience because one of your businesses was with your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a number of partnerships over the years with family and also with friends too, which sometimes you call family because you've known them for a very long time. But my first company was with my mother, and we fell into it. We were renovating houses. She was an interior decorator, and I did the real estate deals, and so we decided to do things together. Now, fortunately, for 15 years, that worked really well for us. We had our fair share of arguments, but the key thing was we started the way we intend to finish, with all the paperwork, all the documents, the shareholders agreements, all the stuff that's going to protect you in the event that something goes sideways.
All right, so we got a list of do's and don'ts here. These are great. I'm just going to hit you with them one at a time, and we talk about it. And the first one to me, you just mentioned it, is do the paperwork. When I read this, I was like, God, that's so interesting.
It is.
To think that you're going to need a signed contract, a partnership agreement with someone that might have birthed you or raised you or grown up with you or whatever the case is.
Well, it might not be that first generation of connection in the family either. Consider this. So you and I go into business, you get married, something happens at home, your wife goes, and you're there going, well, I've got to now pay her out.
Did you just get me married and divorced? Was it my fault? Did I do anything wrong?
But my point is that now you've got pressure on you for a different reason, and we've got pressure on us from a business perspective because that comes back into the office. The fact that we've been brothers for 25 years is irrelevant. We're going to have that transfer of stress from the next generation of the family connection. So it's important to get that paperwork set out up front and look at all the different angles that might affect the relationship between you and your brother or your mother or your father, whoever you're going into business with.
I feel like it's a weird conversation to have. It's almost like the prenup conversation.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't really trust you as we start this. Please sign here. Yeah.
It is, and moreover, you've got to look at the sticky things too. So what if you flip out and all of a sudden you've got some sort of a brain tumor or something that affects you?
Wow, my life is terrible in the course of this interview. Man.
He shouldn't get into business.
Yeah.
But my point is that if you don't consider all these things, then something could come unstuck and you're not protected. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to protect yourself and your immediate family, no matter how much you like your brother or your sister or your father or your mother, whoever you're going to work with.
Okay, so the next one is don't cloud issues in secrecy.
Yeah. So I want to buy this little hamburger joint. It's going really well. Do you want to throw some money into it? Yeah, that's great. Where you know it's not going well. You know that it hasn't had a really good reputation in the marketplace, but you're kind of covering that because you reckon you can fix that. So you're telling everybody around you in the family, come and join me. It's going to be great. I'm going to make this thing sing. Come out and tell them what the truth is. We're going to buy this hamburger joint. It's not going very well, but I think together we can fix it. What do you think?
Right.
Because if you start in secrecy, what starts in a lie ends in a lie. And that's when it gets really ugly.
And so there's sort of two parts to that. So not only do you have to be honest, but it almost sounds like don't trust the family member that's telling you that the hamburger joint is great.
Do your own due diligence.
Right.
Do your own homework. Go on, ask the questions, look at the books, check the finances, ask the marketplace what they think of that particular business. Because if you're not comfortable in your own skin, you're never going to be comfortable working with that family member when something goes sideways.
And then the worst part is, you have these issues and you bring them home with you. You bring them to the family picnics with you or whatever.
And that just becomes a vicious circle. So things aren't going great at the office. You go home, your wife says to you, look, you're not making as much money as you said you were going to make out of this business. I've got school fees to pay, we've got insurance to pay. All this stuff is pressure at home, and you bring that stress and pressure straight back into the office. So it goes around in circles. You find a place where you've got nowhere to hide. You're fighting with your brother or your sister at the office, you're fighting with your wife at home, and the only time you got quiet is driving to work.
Life sounds horrible, and wow, that sounds terrible.
I'm painting a really bad picture, but you've got to look at these bad things first to make sure it's going to be good. It's human nature.
So things are going well. Let's paint the rosier picture. Everybody's great. Nobody's getting divorced or lying to spouses. But partly because you've done a great job of doing your daily check-ins, right? Do those.
Exactly. So even my wife and I, we work together in the business here and also in Australia. And in fact, she made more than me working in the business in Australia last year. Not sure how that happened. But we have...
It's still half yours, man.
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
mine is yours. Yeah.
Well, kind of, yeah. We have daily check-ins every morning. We check the day, what we've got going on, money in, money out. Just make sure that we're all on top of it, just for 5 minutes. So she knows what's happening in the business, and I know that she's up to speed and haven't got to worry about her going, well, you never told me that. And then we do weekly check-ins where we spend an hour, go for a walk on the beach, and check up as to what we want to do next week, next month, and are we on track with our annual plan. We have these moments in time where we make sure we connect, because if you don't, then that's when you sometimes wake up and go, you never told me that. And it just breeds more dissent in amongst the ranks.
This one's great too. Don't assign roles or responsibilities based on family history. I love that one. So just because you go into business with your mom doesn't mean she's the boss.
Not necessarily. And in fact, in that case, she was actually working for me in the business, but even though we're side by side and equal partners. But let's look at this. 2 guys, brothers, they're in a manufacturing business. One does sales, one does operations. Their 2 sons want to come into the business. Doesn't mean that their son should automatically go into sales. He might not be able to sell. So give them a role and a responsibility based on their skill set, not on their heritage.
These are so fun. And they will lead to such interesting conversations around the table when you plan these. Don't underestimate the journey and do a communication plan. We're tight on time, so we'll hit both of those together.
Real quick, make sure that you know it's going to take twice as long, cost twice as much, and be twice as hard. And make sure you've got a plan for the next 5 years so that you know what the journey looks like and there's no surprises.
Oh man, so interesting. Do you find this a lot? Do your friends come to you and say, hey, I need your advice. My dad and I are going to start a golf,
Yeah,
factory.
I do.
What's a golf factory? Maybe don't start that. That sounds like a bad business.
Because I've got a history of family business and being in family business, I do have those conversations with lots of people. It's really just down to have the hard conversations first, and the rest of the life will be easier.
There are a million nuggets just like that in this book.
Absolutely.
Right? Future-proofing your business. How can people get it?
Amazon.com, simplest place.
That was really easy. Good to see you, man.
No worries, you too.
All right, I can't wait to get married and divorced, fall violently ill, and hopefully come out of it.
I didn't mean to ruin your day.
As I start a business. Take care, bud.
No worries.